Would you say that is the PAP's biggest mistake, to turn housing into an asset? Because it seems to me it's very difficult, almost impossible to reverse this mistake, whereas others are possibly reversible.
Well, when people ask what are the reasons for pushing home ownership, right? Bing Huat has his theories, right? That, I mean, politically, Lee Kuan Yew himself has said that he has noticed that in the West, homeowners tend to vote more conservatively. The idea that if you have a mortgage to pay, you don't want to rock the boat. Right? Scholars have also suggested it promotes labor peace. If you have to pay a mortgage, you won't protest or go on strike because you don't want to lose your job. Right? So there are political reasons. I think for this particular government, on hindsight, housing is probably the greatest monument to their so-called track record. It's visible. You live in it. You walk past it. It's everywhere. Right? So the irony is that for something that we are so familiar with, that we live in, that's part of our lives, we constantly need to be told how to feel about it, right? As Walid has pointed out. That is very strange, right? Something we'll return to again, that the policy of public housing is in a way propped up by a very thick, rich set of policy narratives, right? About what it is, about whether we should celebrate it, about what is good, and what is bad. About public housing. It is not entirely irreversible. Maybe we'll get a chance to talk about that later. But speaking of narratives, before I forget, from time to time we hear kind of prominent people saying that, I used to grow up in rental housing. And that
Rags to
happens,
riches story. Yeah,
right, rags to riches, right? In election campaigns, you hear it, prominent people say, I grew up in rental housing. But why do they say it? I think they say it because rental housing today connotes hardship, right? So they say it because of what rental housing is today. It's both to, I suppose, proof of commonness, proof of humanity, as well as to justify privilege, right? I've had to work hard to come this way. But I suggest that when we hear these statements, we check the historical timing. It's quite important. So if somebody in his 60s says they grew up in rental housing, they would have been a kid in the 1960s. In the 1960s, fact check, in 1965, 96% of flats were rental housing. 96% of flats in 1965 were rental housing. To say that you grew up in the 60s in a rental flat, you are not remarkable. You are not special, right? You are just like everybody else, right? And if that prominent person also happens to be a politician, a policy maker, who should in fact share some responsibility, right, for turning rental housing to what it is today, to then instead turn around and wear it like a badge of honor, frankly feels a bit cynical to me.